Welcome to this Inner Space Eclipse Intel Share. I'm super glad to have you all here, and I look forward to sliding along through this eclipse corridor with all of you. Eclipses have always really intrigued me. I think all of us, right, as humanity, they've intrigued humanity since time, ancient time. And that quality of a familiar celestial body being up in the sky and drastically changing the way we're used to seeing it from a lunar eclipse when that shadow comes across and often it's like a blood red color, or solar eclipses are much more dramatic because day turns into night, and it's just they've always been really powerful pulls of attention on the human spirit. So a lot of us that work with the energy of the planets and the solar system and do grid working and gatekeeping, we find these eclipse times super potent and powerful. So we're sitting here in November 2021, and today this is being recorded on November 15th. So this week we have a lunar eclipse it starts November 18th, like in the wee hours of the morning. So it's really like a 1 a.m. time, and then moves through till about sunrise from my North America vantage point. It's at different times, of course, depending where you are on the globe. Hey Lynn, your microphone's on. Let me there, I muted you. Welcome, welcome. So for the viewing window, and I have also in the Thinkific course platform a place where you can go and look and see where it is. It will be there for your local time. I'll put that up in a couple days. But for my local time, it's a in the middle of the night quality thing. So you can adjust from there. I'm in Massachusetts, Boston, New York time zone. The wath of where, and this is where I'll screen share, the map will help you. So where it's visible, this lunar eclipse, is a whole section of the globe. So lunar eclipses and solar eclipses are different in how much of the globe can see them. You probably know that, but the way that the alignments are. So first I'll just say that we're November 19th, lunar eclipse, and then 2 weeks later. So eclipses often come in 2 packs or 3 packs. Often the alignments are such that the lunar and solar eclipses happen 2 weeks away from each other. And that's because it's like the celestial sphere, the ecliptic, and the moon's pathway all align, and it'll happen on both full and new moon. So let me get the screen share going and I can show you the map. So in general, lunar eclipses happen because the Earth gets between the sun and the moon, and the Earth casts a shadow on the moon. So the moon is a reflective body, meaning that it doesn't produce solar like the sun does. It doesn't produce energy. It's a inert, more rocky thing, and it reflects sunlight back. So the light we see from the moon is reflected light. And when the Earth gets in the way, the moon goes dark. So that's the general alignment for the lunar eclipse. So the sun, Earth, and then moon are together. This particular lunar eclipse, is that a good visible? Can you see? I know this image will be, you can look at it later, but this just kind of shows you the globe. It's okay if you can't read those little words. But there's a whole swath from, the Russia-Bering Peninsula across Alaska all the way through to the east coast of North America, and a little bit of like Atlantic Canada that this is visible for in the sky. And whether you're at a part of the globe where you can see it or not, eclipses always affect us no matter where we are. But that's just some of the So whoever just joined, your microphone's on. So everything you're doing will be able to hear. So maybe you could attend to that, please. Okay, so here's another view of it that was more of like a round view. The red sections are where, so huge portion of the globe, right? So I had been really called to pay attention to this eclipse, and simultaneously, we are just coming off a long period of alignments with the, so where the sun is in the sky is generally that path that it traces across the sky is called the ecliptic. So through the seasons, the sun moves through different constellations, moves nearby different stars. And the sun was just in the constellation of Virgo and moving with Spica. So there was a lot that a lot of us were paying attention to in this realm of like Mercury, Mars. So the new moon on November 4th, for me, it really opened up this. I could feel the eclipse window opening and allowing in a lot of the energy that was coming for the 19th. So we were also were paying attention to these alignments like Spica and Mercury. Can you see my cursor when I move it? Yay. And this is so fun. It's like I have you in my computer with me. And the new moon happened right next to Mars. So this day, November 4th, if you think back, I know it seems like an eon ago, a couple weeks ago, um, it felt this like wide open, like burst of lunar energy come through. So that happened. The new moon was powerful. And then for myself, we were having a lot of overcast days, rain, whatnot. So this picture I took on November 8th. So that was Monday. When I went to look at it when I was preparing for this share, I was like, that was just a week ago? Holy, holy guacamole. This has been a really big week. All these weeks are, right? But so we got a clear night and I went out and dropped my daughter off at dance class and then made a bust for my place where I can see the western horizon. And so I got this picture, and this one is a little later in the evening. This is just a lens flare. But this is the crescent moon and Venus in the sky. And then when I went home, so I use an app that I call that's called Sky Safari. And often I'll go out and be under the stars or be under things, and I don't take my phone out so much. I mean, I'm taking pictures, but I don't go and like look at things. I don't really use Sky Safari to like look up at things. Like I'll sit with them and I'm with them, and then I'll go home and like surf around and like see what's going on. So that night I was like, oh, and I knew we'd probably all heard from a lot of the Earth Sky and space channels were sharing that the moon was going to code across with the planets. And being the geek that I am, I was like, oh, this is really, and I just felt this pull of it. I was like, oh, what's happening? The moon. So I looked into it a little deeper because, of course, they would report what we can see are the visible planets that are really bright right now are Venus, which is low in the western horizon, and Saturn, which is a little dimmer, and then Jupiter. And those are like on display right now after the sun goes down. And it was cool enough that the moon was going to come and visit Venus and then going to visit Saturn and then going to visit Jupiter. And that was widely shared about on lots of platforms. But when I looked into it a little deeper, I was like, oh my gosh, Mr. Moon, Miss Moon is going to go and visit all the planets in this succession. So I did show you that the moon was with, so November 3rd, November 4th, the moon was with Mars and then Mercury right at the new moon. So that's not something you can see because it's the new moon. It was dark, but we were feeling it. And then, so here's a little flip of succession through the moon. So this is on November 8th, and this is the crescent moon near Venus in the sky. And then that was cloudy day for me, so I didn't see that. But this is the day that I took the picture for you, which the moon was nearby to Venus. And then I noticed that it was the next day it was going to be right next to Pluto. And then the next day right next to Saturn. And then the next day right next to Jupiter. And then a few days later next to Neptune. And that was Saturday, last couple days ago. It also, on Wednesday, November 17th, the moon will be flowing to Uranus. So it's visiting all the major planets. And it's, of course, we don't include Earth on that list because we're here, we're sitting on Earth, and the moon's always with us. But that felt very, it's like, you know, when I go to Harry Potter, it's like with a Horcrux, like, or soul fragments or like pieces of the self. I felt like the moon was going to each planet, coding with it, code exchanging, and like gathering an aspect of its soul, a solar self piece. And then it was going to move right into the eclipse. And so that's what's gathered us here today to talk about how powerful that act is. I've never seen the moon do this kind of dance right before an eclipse before. Maybe it's happened, but it's fun to pay attention to anyway. And then I'll talk about this more separately. So after, I'm pointing to my screen. So after it leaves Uranus, it comes here. This is the Pleiades. This is Aldebaran. So it's going to move into this gateway. So right after, and I have other pictures to show you this, right after it eclipses, it moves into the Pleiades, Aldebaran, Taurus, Golden Gateway. So it just, the alignments couldn't be more auspicious, couldn't be more amazing. And I think if you know my work, you know I'm not like a predictor. You know, so I leave my stuff purposefully, like the alignments are there, but they're there for you to explore because each one of us is going to experience this differently. And how I experience it is unique to me, and how you experience it is unique to you. So I don't like to say like, oh, this is gonna, you know, this alignment does this, because it's really different for each one of us. But this alignment as a collective, as the global evolution that we're going through right now, it couldn't be more well aligned. It feels so super significant. And all this like solar system coding and culmination with this lunar eclipse is just fantastical. I brought this slide in to point out that night, so when I had my aha moment last Monday about all this, was that night after I was out under Venus and the moon. And when I went and looked on my star thing, I noticed that Venus was in, so this is Sagittarius, the bow constellation, bow puller. And Sagittarius 3 is the area of the sky where we look to the galactic center. So, you know, we talk a lot about that. It's around the December solstice, where the sun comes to that point in the sky. So obviously, Sagittarius 3 and the galactic center aren't near each other in space, but on the celestial sphere, where we see it in the sky, the astronomers use this marker of this star to note where the galactic center is. So Venus at the galactic center, starting off this whole coding for me, was significant, and I wanted to share that with you. So I thought we'd go and look at some of the alignments a little bit closer. So November 8th was the Venus with Venus. And then I was telling you I was having this, you know, I usually like to write things up and share things a little more deeply, but as I mentioned, my brain was up in the planets and it was really not happening. So I was like, the best I can do to share with people is to do these images and put them on Facebook. That's about all I got in me this week as far as like articulation. But it was actually really cool that happened, because I think this is a nice, succinct way. People seem to really respond well to it. It's just like tangible, right? So I think I'll keep doing this as time flows. But the moon was with Pluto, meaning keep doing this, meaning making these little graphic images that are easier to share and not burdensome on anyone's mental body. So the moon with Pluto on November 9th, and then with Saturn, oh, here I can look, sorry. So this is Sagittarius, the Archer. And obviously the moon moves pretty quickly through the sky, and it's at a very different station night after night. It's the fastest moving thing across the sky. The planets move much slower. The inner planets that are closer to the sun than Earth move pretty quickly relatively. The outer planets, like Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, move very slowly. So they'll be stationed somewhere for decades, you know, and they move like almost imperceptibly. But the moon moves quick. So one night it's with Venus, and then boom, the other night it's across the constellation with Pluto. And then the next night it went to visit Saturn in Capricorn. I'll point out, this is an aside, but my knees were like, I don't know, my knees experienced this alignment. We'll just say that. And then I would looked up, that some astrologers relate different constellations or different houses with different parts of the body. And Cap is knees. And Sagittarius, Capricorn rules Sagittarius, or Sagittarius rules. Saturn is in Capricorn in its own house, kind of thing. That's what astrologers would say. So anyway, that was a big day. You can think back to what you were experiencing on the 10th, and it was like, yeah, that was a thing. And then it's like, so we've had these like, every day is a thing, right? It's like, oh, the moon's coding here. So these alignments aren't minuscule at all. They've been really, really big. And I feel like in our earlier journeys for all of us, any one of these alignments would have been like, kicked our ass on their own, and we would have like integrated them for days. Part of this like sped up ascension situation that we're in right now, friends, is like, we don't get that integration time anymore. It's just like, go, 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 windows on. And it's like, bing, 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 bing. So that's what I've been experiencing since November 4th. Just the bing, 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 right? So the next bing is the moon with Jupiter on the 11:11 gate. Oh, and I should go back to, I don't think I put a slide in for this, but on the November 10th, we also had Mercury conjunct Mars. So just like as an aside. So that wasn't even like, those two things were happening at the same time. The moon with Saturn. Where'd that go? No. All right, whatever. I don't have a little image for it, but you can trust me, right? It was there. The moon was so on the 10th, it was really big. And then the 11th, and people that pay attention to cosmic energies coming in to the planet, gatekeepers, grid keepers, the 11:11 portal, a lot of folks call it, is its own amazing thing that really kind of in general has nothing to do with eclipse energy, but those just happen to coincide on this day. So Jupiter energy, if you look at the night sky, it is the brightest thing we see right now, and it's just very golden and alluring and very energetic. And that made even more of a bright spot in the day, shall we say. And then we had Friday off, sort of, from the lunar alignment. But that's actually the day for me that the information that came through for me, because I went into a contemplation, meditation, connection session at my 11 a.m. on the 11:11, just because that's what a lot of us do. And the information that came through to me was really about the soul family of the solar system celestial bodies. And if we count the 8 planets that are considered major planets, and then we add in the dwarf planets, Pluto, Ceres, Makemake, the 5 dwarf planets, we kind of take Earth out of the counting because that's us, and we're talking about in relation to others. So we get this team of 12. So I'm going to do that in like a separate share, this council of 12, soul aspects of 12. This energy for me, the 11:11 stuff and all this eclipse stuff, has been gathering all the soul fragments, soul pieces, soul aspects, which is the same thing as saying gathering or activating my 12 strands of DNA. It's the 12 and that quality of the diaspora. If we talk about, the Atlantis crystals were spread in 12 points around the globe. The Lemurian sun disks were distributed through the globe in this 12. The 12-strand DNA activation has been on and up for a lot of us, especially this year with the 2021 and building into 2022. So the rest day between all these alignments really flowed that information to me. So I'll be sharing that in more detail as we flow on. So that was Friday last week. And then Saturday, the November 13th, the moon moved over next to Neptune. And that was a really, to me, just a very, and see, this is, I don't know if you can see the little icon of the Aquarius, the water bearer, but this is the pouring of the water down into the cauldron as this app articulates it. And that was right there, like on the waterfall. So a lot of us have had this waterfall quality. Saturday was just such a watery day. Not even necessarily, we did have rain here, but it was just the emotional content that was pouring through with this alignment was big. So you can explore that for yourself. And I don't have a little graphic for it because I haven't made it yet, because it's a couple days from now. But the next alignment we're going to experience is on Wednesday, the 17th, moon with Uranus. And after that, we move to the 18th, and hopefully, yeah, I put it closer up. So this, see that redness? This is just showing that this is the eclipse. So when I'm going to tune into the eclipse energy is on my Friday wee hours of the morning. Because I'm a code geek like that, I picked 3:33 as this alignment time. Just, any time in the 3 a.m.s is my best viewing. And you can figure that out for yourself. Time and date is a really great one. If you just Google, when is the eclipse in my... But for me, it's a 3:33 a.m. situation here on the East Coast. And so this is Taurus. And the moon is now moved away past Uranus into Taurus. And it eclipses at its max here. So the Pleiades, we're all familiar with. And this V is the Hyades star cluster. And this is Aldebaran. The other thing I want to talk about with the eclipses is that they often work throughout a year cycle. We'll often have several different eclipses. This year, we had a lunar eclipse on May 26th, 2021, and a solar eclipse on June 10th. So a lot of years, every year is a different setup. This year we had 4 eclipses, 2 lunar, 2 solar. The May 26th and June 10th were big activations. So they sort of opened this eclipse corridor. And what we're doing now is completing that work or closing it out. So I wanted to point out to you that probably a lot of things that you're working on personally in the end of May, middle of June, they're up again. They're back for you to reintegrate. And cosmically, the opening that came in May is culminating or gathering.